The External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar, while on an official visit to the United Kingdom, came into close proximity with some unruly Khalistani elements who were shouting slogans and waving placards right outside one of the venues where he had a meeting. One of them even tried to tear up an Indian flag right in front of the minister. Both the Ministry of External Affairs here in Delhi and the British government have put out official statements condemning what happened. But here's the thing. If such a thing had happened to a visiting foreign minister here in India, here in New Delhi or any other city in India, then the government of India, and in fact India as a country, would have got so much bad press from right around the world. Why doesn't quite the same thing happen in Britain, or for that matter any other Western country, when the object of attack happens to be an Indian minister? This is not the first time that these unruly Khalistani elements have run riot. Whether it is outside a meeting venue, whether it is outside the Indian High Commission or other missions in San Francisco, for example, in London itself. Why is it that governments are not able to clamp down? It's not because of lack of ability. Clearly, if the London Metropolitan Police wanted to shut this down, they could have. It is because they seem to have this double standard that they're okay with a peaceful protest, they're okay with the Khalistanis, as long as they don't cross the line. But when it comes to other kinds of protests, for example, people who stand up for Israel in the war that is happening against Hamas in Gaza, they are quickly shut down. People who stand for, all of these illegal immigrants who come out, they get a free run. Why is it that these extremist elements, these separatist elements, are given such a free run, whether it's in the UK or in parts of the US or even in Canada? But I want to first get to what the Ministry of External Affairs has said. This was their official response to the heckling attempt that happened. They've put out an official statement, and I want to read from it. We have seen the footage of a breach of security during the visit of the External Affairs Minister to the UK. We condemn the provocative activities of this small group of separatists and extremists. We deplore the misuse of democratic freedoms by these elements. We expect the host government, in such cases, to fully live up to their diplomatic obligations.
एक कुल मिलाकर 100-150 लोग हैं पूरे लंदन में जो इस प्रकार की हरकत करते हैं और सिर्फ लोगों का ध्यान अपनी ओर आकर्षित करने के लिए करते हैं। ना ज़मीन वहाँ पर उनके पास है, ना यहाँ पर भारत में कोई उनका कोई समर्थक है।
यूके में हुआ है वो बहुत मंदभागा है। इस तरह की घटना जो देश को तोड़ना चाहते हैं, ये वो चंद लोग हैं जो इस तरह की कार्रवाई को अंजाम देते हैं और हमें पूरे देश और दुनिया भर के सिखों को उसका खमियाजा भुगतना पड़ता है। ये इस मानसिकता के साथ ना भारत में ना बाहर बैठा कोई सिख इस मानसिकता के साथ नहीं जुड़ा हुआ।
A good 12 hours later, the UK government also responded to this heckling incident. They said that they strongly condemn the Chatham House incident, but the country upholds the right to peaceful protest. They also said that any attempt to threaten a public event is unacceptable, even pointing to the swift action that was taken by the Metropolitan Police right outside the event venue in central London. The UK government is assured that they remain committed to ensuring security in line with all its international obligations. But, like I said, there is an inherent double standard here where it comes to Khalistani protests, whether in the UK or in Canada, or even what we saw outside our mission in San Francisco in the United States. There seems to be a sort of a long rope that is given to these elements. It's not the first time that these Khalistani elements have run amok in the UK. Just a couple of months ago, there were masked Khalistanis who stormed the Harrowview cinema and shouted anti-India slogans. They halted the screening of the film Emergency, which was the Kangana Ranaut starrer. In October 2023, a group of pro-Khalistan protesters gathered outside the High Commission of India, waving anti-India placards and chanting slogans in strong Scotland Yard presence. Despite that, it went on. They claimed that they were protesting against the killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar, which, by the way, happened 2 years ago. The same year, a group of unidentified assailants suspected to be the proponents of denounced cause of separate Khalistan state prevented the Indian High Commissioner, Vikram Doraiswamy, from entering a Gurdwara in Scotland while he was on an official visit to Scotland. In March 2023, Khalistan supporters attacked the Indian High Commission in London. They attempted to take down the tricolour, which of course, you go to any mission, you go to any embassy or consulate, you have the host country's flag that flies atop the building. These folks tried to bring the tricolour down. Meanwhile, in response to this, and we're getting a piece of breaking information, the UK's charge d'affaires in the mission here in New Delhi, Christina Scott, was summoned by the Ministry of External Affairs after the security breach that happened with External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar in London outside the Chatham House venue, where he had a seminar, a session planned. Right outside, you could see those Khalistani elements, one of them even trying to make way towards the convoy of the External Affairs Minister and even trying to tear up the Indian flag. Siddhant has more details on this. Siddhant, so the CDA has been summoned and issued a note. Tell us what else can we inform our viewers regarding India's response to what happened at the Chatham House venue yesterday?
Well, Zaka, India has taken this issue very, very seriously. And in fact, we have also been reporting since morning that how in 2023, when Rishi Sunak was the Prime Minister at that time, if you remember, Zaka, in August, Security Secretary came to India and he in fact pledged £95,000 to tackle this extremism on British soil. In fact, there was a joint task force which was announced between the two countries to handle these issues, to discuss the issue of extremism. Today we are in 2025, and in 2023 it was Indian diplomats, Indian diplomatic building. Today it is Indian Foreign Minister. Perhaps this is not going to stop. And today also, Zaka, if you see the response that we have received from the British government, you know, they are appreciating the measures taken by Metropolitan Police. But the fact, Zaka, is that if a layman also goes through the footage, one could easily find that how close the protesters were to Minister Jaishankar's car. Even here in India, Zaka, we practice freedom of speech, and on many occasions there are protests and dharnas that political groups, take to Chanakyapuri, which is the diplomatic area in New Delhi, but they are not allowed to go beyond the Chanakyapuri police station, because that is how we, as a host government, we are responsible for the security of the diplomatic mission of the other country. Now we are getting to know the charge d'affaires have been summoned. Christina Scott, we are still awaiting official response from the Ministry of External Affairs, but sources have told us that India has lodged a strong protest with the British government, but EAM S. Jaishankar visit to UK still continues.
Okay, Siddhant, we'll leave it at that. Thank you very much. Siddhant joining us with details of the summons that's been issued to the charged affairs of the UK here in New Delhi. Sushant Sareen, Senior Fellow with the Observer Research Foundation, is joining us. Lord Rami Ranger is former member of the House of Lords in the UK. Lord Ranger, let me start with you first. You know, explain this to our viewers here in India. It's not as if the London Metropolitan Police is incapable of acting against these characters. It's just that they allow them to, because they can. Why does London not take India's concerns about these Khalistani, these radical separatist elements seriously enough?
First of all, you know, in the UK, people do have a right to protest, but peacefully. They are not allowed to approach the car or the convoy of the foreign minister, or to manhandle or try to manhandle. That is unacceptable. But there are two very serious issues here. First of all, it is embarrassing for British government as much as it is for India, because what these people are doing, they are totally have misunderstood the history of India. In 1947, a country was created on the basis of religion. Look at that state of that country today. And if the people of Pakistan have choice to join India again, there will be overwhelming support to come back. So they should learn that making country and then running it is a very, very difficult. And more importantly, being a border state, how will they provide security? Because all around they're surrounded by Pakistan. How will they stop the narcotics coming into Punjab? How will they stop terrorists coming into Punjab? They have no idea what they're asking for. They do not have the resources. Plus, they're just handful of people, and they, you know, the Kashmiris have been shouting, screaming for the last 70 years. They have not got anything. Pakistan has fought 4 wars. They haven't got Kashmir. What chance do they have without having a single gun or tank or aeroplane? Pakistan has an army supported by the Americans. So therefore, they should understand that the country, India, the BJP government has done enormous for the Sikhs, opening Kartarpur corridor, making wheel bar Divas in celebration of Sahibjada, celebrating Guru's birthday. I mean, Sikh Guru do not belong to Sikhs only. If they really want to hate so much, then first they have to remove the teaching of Hindu holy men from the Guru Granth Sahib, if they really want to go that far. So therefore, they have totally understood without Sikh, without Hindus, there would be no Sikhs.
You know,
Where did the Sikhs come from?
the irony in all of this is none of these Khalistani elements ever talk about, carving out a separate Khalistan out of Pakistani Punjab. I mean, the erstwhile Sikh empire, it had its capital in Lahore. Nobody talks about that. That's clear because, it's Pakistani elements who fund these folks.
Maybe, yes, I agree. They are supported by the enemies of India. And very importantly, what we have to understand, the Britain must stop people bringing the politics of subcontinent or different country to divide us. We don't want to be divided, Hindus and Sikhs and Christians and whatever.
Okay.
This is one king, one country. We need to remote. So therefore, we should learn from Canada what these Canadians have done. They divided the country.
Yeah.
So we don't want to divide United Kingdom.
So let me get Sushant also in. So I want to come back to the point that I started off with, Lord Ranger, that it's not like the Metropolitan Police is incompetent or doesn't have the capability to attack to shut this down, right? Look at the stuff that they've swiftly shut down. There were anti-monarchy protests that were held in London right after the Queen's death, the Queen Elizabeth, the last Queen who died, and that was shut down within a matter of a few minutes. There were anti-Hamas protesters last summer who were arrested during the march. Remember, these are folks who have come out legitimately and protested against a global terrorist organization, and you have the London police shutting down that protest. You had an ex-police officer who put up a post, a transphobic post, as it was called, on social media, and he was immediately arrested. My point, Sushant, is they can act if they so choose. In this case, and in repeated instances with these Khalistani elements, they are choosing not to act. Why is that?
So, Zaka, I think your question pretty much answers itself because they're complicit. I think these kind of protests is sanctioned, supported, and in fact promoted by the British government itself and of course by the Metropolitan Police. So, for example, these thugs who were standing on the roadside shouting slogans, they were also chummy and buddy-ish with the cops who were around them. Now, my point is that, look, if once it happens, you can, it's that old saying, once is by chance, twice it happens, it's a coincidence. But if it happens time after time, it's enemy action. And clearly, the British government is complicit in what is happening, especially this targeting of Indian missions, Indian officials. And Zaka, anybody who understands or who has read about this whole Khalistani thug movement, we know how violent these guys are. They're responsible for acts of mass murder. I'm not just talking about the Air India aircraft, but I'm talking about assassinations, including suicide bombings of the former Chief Minister Bien Singh ji. I'm talking about the massacring of Hindus in Punjab. I'm talking about a number of other stuff which these guys have done. Now, can you imagine for a moment? And we know that London is Londonistan. It's like one of the areas where all kinds of terrorists around the world come and prosper. Can you imagine if this guy had been carrying a gun, for example?
Exactly.
Or if he was a suicide bomber, and you are allowing him to come so close to an Indian official, Indian External Affairs Minister in this case. What if he was one of those? Unless, of course, the London police knew beforehand what he's going to do and how they're going to control him. So it all seems to be a little choreographed. That is one issue. The other issue is, why is this happening? It's happening because the Brits haven't quite reconciled to the rise of India. And look, ever since independence, they've always sided with the Pakistanis. Whether it was in our wars, they've sided with the Pakistanis. You name the time, they've sided with the Pakistanis. When this Pakistani army chief, who has crushed democracy in his country, who has muzzled the media in his country, who has muzzled the judiciary in his country, comes to the UK, do they ask him the kind of questions they asked Dr. Jaishankar? So this racism, this insidious racism which is there in the Brits, it comes pouring out the moment they're dealing with India. And what they do is that, this is a kind of a leverage they use against India, that look, we can create trouble in you, or at the very minimum, it is the typical British way of insulting India, giving a slide to India, which is why just yesterday, while the External Affairs Minister was there, they held this conference or whatever you want to call it in the British Parliament on the whole issue of Kashmir and human rights and stuff like that in India. Now, it was very clearly designed to, give a kind of a prick to the Indians, show them down. It's the British way of doing things.
I want to talk about that whole business of Kashmir, unfinished business of Kashmir, as one of the reporters asked this question to Dr. Jaishankar. I want to come back to Lord Ranger and to Sushant in just 1 second. So that was the other thing that sort of went viral, because there was a question that was asked during that interactive session at the Chatham House, where a Pakistani journalist, I believe, I'm told, asked this question of the Indian External Affairs Minister regarding alleged ill treatment of Kashmiris. Now, the minister, shut him down without actually shutting him down with the answer that he gave. The journalist, while posing his question, claimed that this would make Jaishankar a little nervous. He accused India of illegally occupying Kashmir. He asked whether Prime Minister Modi could use his friendship with President Trump of the United States to resolve the Kashmir issue. Now, while firmly rejecting third-party intervention, which is India's stated position, Dr. Jaishankar put the journalist and his country on the mat, saying, "We are waiting for the return of the stolen part of Kashmir, which is under illegal Pakistani occupation." So the External Affairs Minister also highlighted the steps taken by the Modi government. He said that removing Article 370 was one step in resolving the Kashmir issue. He spoke about restoring growth, economic activity and social justice, holding elections, which was absolutely crucial. It happened last year. A democratically elected government under the National Conference came to power, and that was step number 3 in the normalization of Kashmir.
The Kashmiris are up in arms because India is occupying Kashmir illegally. That's the reason why they are protesting. Can Narendra Modi use his friendship with Donald Trump to solve out the problem of Kashmir? There are 1 million soldiers stationed in Kashmir to control 7 million Kashmiris. So what are you going to do about the Kashmir problem?
On Kashmir, actually we have done, I think, a good job solving most of it. I think removing Article 370 was one step, number 1. Then restoring growth and economic activity and social justice in Kashmir was step number 2. Holding elections, which were done with a very high turnout, was step number 3. I think the part we are waiting for is the return of the stolen part of Kashmir, which is on the under illegal Pakistani occupation. When that's done, I assure you, Kashmir solved.
एक हिस्सा पाकिस्तान के पास में, उस पर भी आज फॉरेन मिनिस्टर साहब ने कहा है कि हम वापस लेके आएंगे। किसने रोका? मुझे बताइए ना, किसने रोका? हमने कभी कहा कि मत लाओ? खुद बताइए ना। जब करगिल का वार हुआ, क्या वापस लाया? वो मौका था ना, लाते नहीं लाए। चलिए कोई बात नहीं, उस वक्त नहीं हो पाया। आज अगर ला सकते हो लाइए ना। हम में से कौन सा ऐसा है जो कहे ना लाए? ला सकते हो तो लाइए। लेकिन उसके साथ साथ जब आप वो नक्शा देखते हो ना जम्मू कश्मीर का, उसमें जम्मू कश्मीर का एक हिस्सा पाकिस्तान के पास है, ठीक, लेकिन एक हिस्सा चीन के पास भी है। उसकी बात क्यों नहीं होती?
So, Lord Ranger, your views on this? You have the External Affairs Minister saying the only unfinished business in Kashmir is getting the part that Pakistan illegally took in 1947-48, getting that back to India. You have the democratically elected Chief Minister of Kashmir saying, Jammu and Kashmir saying that why don't you get back the parts that Pakistan has occupied and also the parts that China has occupied?
Very frankly, Umar Abdullah is talking rubbish. The part occupied will come back to India itself. First of all, they have to understand the history. Kashmir was independent state at the time of partition of India. Who invaded Kashmir and why? What was the mandate they had to invade an independent state? And the king, the Raja of Kashmir, sought the help of India. It was part of India. So therefore, the sanctity of Kashmir was disturbed by none other than Pakistan. So therefore, to blame it, and more importantly, Kashmir is independent. It's a part of secular democratic country. People can elect government of their choice. They can elect leader of their choice. They can run the country the way they want it. What they can't do, what they did in Pakistan, is to devalue Kashmiri citizen with the help of religion card. And first of all, Hindus are the original inhabitant of Kashmir. Just because another community has a more population, that doesn't mean that they should now make the original inhabitant of Kashmir second class by using religion. Why don't the people use merit, education, and qualification to rise above the rest? This is what happened in Pakistan. Look at the state. The biggest brain drain took
I'm
place in
also
Pakistan.
curious to know from Sushant very quickly before we wrap this segment. You have the curious situation here. The elected Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir in a democracy like India is well within his right to criticize the Indian External Affairs Minister, who is for political purposes, is on the other side of the political spectrum. I wonder if the Prime Minister, the so-called Prime Minister of Azad Jammu and Kashmir, or POK, can even dare to ask a question of the Prime Minister of Pakistan or the Foreign Minister of Pakistan.
Yeah, if he was to ask a question of the Foreign Minister or the Prime Minister, forget Foreign Minister, Prime Minister, he can't ask the local captain and major of the Pakistan Army who's in POK a question, right? They bow before captains and majors. So forget about those puppets. But I think what the EAM said in London was actually the stated Indian policy that, the entire Kashmir is an integral part of India, and there will be a time and place of our choosing. And I agree with Lord Ranger that there will be a day that whether it will be out of war, I doubt it, but probably out of politics and diplomacy or the sheer force of circumstances, that Kashmir will be reunited with the rest of India. As far as Aksai Chin is concerned, because the Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir did raise that issue, perhaps he should ask his father, who not too long back had sought assistance of China to sort the problem in Kashmir. So maybe he can ask his father to talk to China and ask them to cede the control of the territory which they have occupied illegally in Aksai Chin.
All right. Thanks very much, Sushant Sareen and Lord Rami Ranger, for joining us with your thoughts and perspective.